But now there's a new wrinkle in this because Brendan Sorsby just entered the NFL Supplemental Draft. Michigan volleyball just canceled a game against Texas Tech. The NCAA has no standing power. If they can't win that case on somebody betting on their own team in their own sport while they are actively playing on a roster, they cannot do anything. Sports gambling has been around for centuries, but it has never been as accessible as it is right now. $1.7 trillion are gambled each year on sports. And the reality of it is really hard to keep these college athletes, and really any athlete, uninvolved in this gambling. We look around as far back as 1919. For the Black Sox scandal. Shoeless Joe Jackson and a few of his teammates were banned from baseball forever and from any chance of the Hall of Fame because they bet against their team in the World Series and ultimately won a bunch of money because they lost. You look at Emmanuel Clase. He bet against himself to make a little bit of money for himself, his friends, and his family through betting. You look at Iowa State's former quarterback, Hunter Deckers. He ruined his career over 366 bets placed, $2,800 on those bets on himself and other teams in college football. His career was effectively ended there. You look at Pete Rose, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, made some bets on his team to do well while he was a player manager for the Reds, and now he will never see the Hall of Fame despite being the all-time hits leader. So gambling has been around forever, but it's always been punished. So that leads me now to Brendan Sorsby. He was found guilty of making $90,000 worth of bets, which trumps Hunter Decker's $2,800 by far. And he's made $90,000 in bets on college football, and at least 40 of those bets were on his own team back at Indiana. He started at Indiana in 2021 when he committed, and he stayed with them through 2023, placed 40 bets through that time in Bloomington, then transferred to Cincinnati for 2 seasons, and ultimately moved on to Texas Tech this past offseason before the investigation opened in April looking into his sports gambling issues. He entered a facility to treat himself for his gambling addiction, and the NCAA ended up rendering him ineligible for the 2026 season. Him and his legal team, they went after the NCAA. Texas Tech, as a program, went after the NCAA, and ultimately a Texas judge who was on a panel of 4, or was in a circuit of 3 of the 4 judges, went to Texas Tech, ironically. That judge granted a temporary injunction against the NCAA, which is basically a legal restraining order, allowing Brendan Sorsby to play in 2026 as long as he served a 2-game suspension. He will remain eligible unless the NCAA wins its appeal, which it will not. But now there's a new wrinkle in this because Brendan Sorsby just entered the NFL Supplemental Draft. He won his case and ultimately would have played in 2026, but decided to enter the Supplemental Draft. The question is why? I think the only logical answer is he started to see the backlash. A bunch of other programs in not just college football, but many sports, all sports in college athletics are refusing to play Texas Tech. Michigan volleyball just canceled a game against Texas Tech. I mean, of all people, the volleyball teams are involved now. I mean, this is a serious deal. Brendan Sorsby saw what he started. He decided, you know what? I've left my fingerprints on that. I'm going to step out while I can. And he's also honestly protecting himself because he would face a ton of backlash throughout the season and probably some threats, unfortunately. But, college football fans, they're comfortable when they're behind their screens. So he would definitely face a bunch of backlash. So now he's leaving. But this is interesting to me because the reason he won the case, or the reason he got this injunction, was because he stated his mental health would be in a bad place if he couldn't play for Texas Tech in 2026. He got the freedom to play for Texas Tech in 2026. His mental health should have been better, but he still left. So really that kind of, in my mind, goes directly against the argument he made to the court, goes directly against what his lawyers said, goes directly against everything that they were practically campaigning on to get him into the season. And I think it's honestly a little bit disrespectful because there are college football players that are dealing with real mental health issues. And I understand that a gambling addiction can be an issue, but to go off about how it would be so mentally, challenging, mentally tormenting not to play in 2026 and then ultimately choosing not to play in 2026 just seems incredibly hypocritical. But despite this decision for him to go, Brendan Sorsby's out. But the precedent still remains. The precedent that small town courts can still control and trump the NCAA. And you look at another thing that's interesting. You look at the Big 12 now. The Big 12 athletic director, Brett Yormark, announced today that they were going to go after Texas Tech. And, well, why did you wait so long to go after Texas Tech? Well, because now Brendan Sorsby's out of the equation. The only reason they hadn't made action to this point was because Brendan Sorsby gave Texas Tech a chance to really make real money for the conference. But now that Brendan Sorsby's out of the way and he's off to the NFL, who's going to make the money for the Big 12? So, of course, the Big 12 is going to go after Texas Tech and try to save their face a little bit now that they have the chance, which, again, is a low blow, but it's kind of what was expected, really. I mean, money is a big play in this, and Brendan Sorsby was going to make money for Texas Tech. He was going to make money for the conference and ultimately for, really everybody in the conference. It would have trickled down. But now that he's gone, why not try to save your face and punish the school that has caused so much upstir? So what's the fallout in this? Obviously, the number one fallout is that the NCAA has collapsed. The NCAA has no standing power. If they can't win that case on somebody betting on their own team in their own sport while they are actively playing on a roster, they cannot do anything. Small town courts, small state courts, they can now control college football. Like, let's think about this in a certain way. Let's say Michigan under Sharon Moore. Now that he's gone and he's fired for, having inappropriate relations with a staff member, what if some of these Michigan players were like, hey, we believe that we had a year stripped from us that will be valuable for our future, so we think we deserve to have another year back of eligibility because of the pain and the mental torment that the whole Sharon Moore situation caused. And then what if they go and they put it to a local Michigan judge who happened to graduate from the University of Michigan's law school. They put him up, he hits the gavel down, and next thing you know, the whole 2026 Michigan team has another year of eligibility for 2027. What's stopping them? I mean, the NCAA, they'll try to appeal it, but what's that going to matter? They'll have an injunction against them that apparently can stand against the test of whatever the NCAA wants to throw at them. The NCAA has no power. What have they done over these past 3 years? They banned Akron from the playoff because of academic violations. Guess what? Akron isn't going to make the playoffs ever, at least in my lifetime. They took some wins away from Iowa. I can tell you, Iowa doesn't care. They took some wins away from Michigan State. Michigan State had no wins to take away anyway. So what does it matter? The NCAA is powerless, and really, college football, as an overarching, having a governing body, they have no power. It is an open-ended ceiling. It's like opening up a dome on a stadium, and now anything can fall into that dome. Rain, hail, storms, snow, whatever, and it's all falling in right now. It is a problem. So this can go one of two ways. Either you continue down the slope, and the storm just continues, and college football ends up getting into a place where maybe it can't even fix itself, or you reform. College football needs a governing body. All pillars of the NCAA have been torn to the ground. They need somebody. I don't know if it's going to be the College Sports Commission. I don't know if it's going to be the Coaches Association. I don't know if it's going to be a revamped NCAA, but somebody has to step in and take this over, and that's going to take an agreement of the big conferences and the Big Ten and the SEC, the Big 12, ACC. Everybody's going to have to agree. They're going to have to get a governing body together, and they're going to have to make these players contracted employees. Because if you have a governing body like the NCAA and you write into this legal contract that, hey, you have to follow these rules of the NCAA to sign this contract or you will be legally punished, then that's the only way that you can actually legally bind these players, these coaches, everybody. That's how you can legally bind them to the rules of the NCAA or another governing body. Without that, honestly, without contracting these players, making them employees, which is a step that I don't think anybody ever really wanted to take. Originally, it was just here, you get a scholarship, you get to come to school for free and have a chance to make money in the NFL. Well, guess what? Now you're making money already. You're making even more money than some NFL rookies. So what do? You give them contracts. I know it's not what people want to do, and I know it's going to be tough to pass through legislation and get everything agreed upon by the Big Ten, the SEC, getting everybody on board. It's going to be tough because everybody likes this freedom to be able to do whatever they want. You look at Pete Golding's situation at Ole Miss. He's like, yeah, we might have broke rules. We might have tampered, but what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Nobody's going to do anything because no one can. Anything and everything that gets done can just be overturned in a week or two. It's a mess. The only option you have is to take the first step and make these players contracted employees that have to adhere to the rules on their contract put in place by the NCAA or another governing body. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were, an NCAA board member? What would you do if you were even a coach in college football right now? I just want to hear what you guys think, even as a fan. Just let me know in the comments below. I'm curious. That's all I have for today, and as always, go Blue.